one thing that's in her question that you're not going to be able to answer is the problem of workaholic pastors and workaholic Missouri Synod pastors. I'm going to start with something that Dr. Kuntz said to me. Again, Adam's great in lots of ways. He has lots of insights. But it really stuck with me. And it was offhanded, and it was not on a show. It was before or after recording a show a while back. And we were talking, I mean, he's an outsider to the LCMS. Mm-hmm. He wasn't raised a Lutheran. So he's got a real different, he's a Northeasterner. So he's especially not a passive-aggressive German. I mean, there's nothing about him that kind of natively slides into the cult that is the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod.
I just kind of get that from him.
Yeah. The niceness factor just isn't, but he's really nice, but it's not like he's driven by this, but the best construction on ever. You know, all of that, again, to call it the cult of the Missouri Synod isn't to say that we're a cult, but we definitely have some strange, eccentric cultural realities about us. And we're very, I mean, that's why someone visits an LCMS church and they're like, I can't join this. I mean, it's not the liturgy. It is not the liturgy. It's the way we are. And much of it is unhealthy. There's a lot of unhealthy. And so he said at one point, he was kind of just exasperated. He just said, you guys work so hard. And that was not a compliment. It was in no way a compliment out of his mouth. It was a complaint about the pastors in the Missouri Synod and this workaholic Protestant work ethic, quote unquote, in which we literally believe that we're going to save the church. And if we don't, it won't. And there's an idolatry of self there. And we're trained into it. We're molded into this need to do everything for this little social club that is either going to stand till Jesus comes back because Jesus wants it to, or it's going to fall. But we're going to do it, you know, and the amount of time then that men give to the task, not of the phone call and the visit. I mean, those are there too, and they take time, but it's actually there's a lot of consternation time. There's a lot of angst time. There's a lot of overstudy, over-prepare. I'm going to rewrite my sermon one more time so that I can read it with as much energy as I can when I read it to you, right? You know, as an aside, I mean, people have asked me about my preaching style, and I tell you, I don't prepare nearly as much as most guys do. Because when you preach exegetically, you don't have to. So you don't have to spend so much time being a rhetorician, and you can just practice talking about what it says. Anyway, so, you know, my answer then to you is expect your pastor, your husband, in our system, trained as he is, to be a workaholic and have his conscience completely bound to believing the life and death of the church rests on his shoulders, and whether or not he does this or that today, every day, until it breaks him on some level, and then be there to just support him. You're not the one to tell him this. You're not the one to fix this. But it is going to be something you see him go through. Pray for him, that he realizes that it's not up to him. And so you mentioned the whole vacation, come back early for the funeral. Like, this is exactly the problem.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you flew to the other side of the country, somebody died, and they want the funeral 2 days from now, and they expect you to be there? Like, I get it. I love these people. I want to do your funeral. I'm back in 5 days. Let's work together. But the pastors have been trained to, again, you know, turn the other cheek and, you know, be the floor mat of often people who aren't even coming to church. I mean, the ones who are the most pushy about the funerals are the kids who don't come for their parents. And they have all these wants and all these needs, and I want this and at this time and blah, blah, blah. And like, to have your husband awoken by God to see that it's actually better to fight back. Having boundaries is good.
Yeah.
Right.
But, right, like she cannot have boundaries for her
she
husband.
cannot. Nope.
And so putting it in those terms of like workaholism, that's a little easier to talk to, I guess, because then I can go, what have I done? Over the years to try to find time with you. So setting aside time in the evenings was always important for us. But then I've gone with you on multiple shut-in visits
or like
visits
when I go to an installation, like you always try to come. Yeah.
Yeah. And so we get that little bit of time in the car together. And then, so on the way, we get to have time just chatting about whatever. And then on the way home, we get to talk about the experience we just had. And then the shared experience of being in that scenario together, we can talk about. So, yeah. And then any conference that you go to, if I'm able to go, I'll go.
But okay, so you don't have kids yet. Like when I think back to how much time I spent getting the bulletin just right.
Oh, and I folded bulletins till my eyes
That's
bled.
just it. Join him in the task. I'll tell you all, the bulletin doesn't matter much. It's nice to have a clean bulletin. It is such a superfluous part of the experience. And the more you can get it on auto repopulate, do it. Don't. And if you have to lay it out every week, man, are you just wasting life? And take 3 years to plan to get them off of this behemoth, whatever it is, where everything's printed.
Everybody throws it away.
Yeah, it just, it's not that hard to use the book, and you can teach it, but take the time. Anyway, but, if you have the chance as a wife to help with those things, that takes that off of his, I have to. And most guys, it's going to be, the bulletin is just going to be a big part of their week, and they're going to spend a ton of time being the best paid secretary in the area. And even if they got a secretary, they're still going to spend all this time on the bulletin. And then, they're writing thesis statements once a week as well. And then they're going to read it, and they want to practice reading it. So that you can't really help him with that, but you can ask him about it, though. That'd be something. Ask him if I just mentioned Isaiah, right? So for the next couple of weeks, if you ask about Isaiah, I'll just start barfing on you,
Buyer beware.
That kind of thing.
Yeah.
But ultimately, you need to pray that he sees that he doesn't have to work that hard soon. That would be my main answer.
Yes. The important little bit of information that I was given at seminary just through observation was there's an encouragement on pastors' wives to have their own ministry. And so there's that encouragement. And then there was the other encouragement that I received that was just a one-liner from a wizened pastor's wife whose husband had moved up in the ranks, and I believe that he was the president of the seminary at the time. I believe that this came from the president's wife. And she said, no matter what, bear in mind that every time you say yes to one thing, you're saying no to another. So if you are saying yes to all these tasks at church, like you're going to be the organist and the secretary and the ladies guild leader, recognize you're probably going to end up saying no to your family. And right now, Marlo, your family is your husband. And so the more that you take on that's away from his focus, the more that your ability to just be there and be his helper will be strained. So my goal in recognizing that there was this pressure to have my own ministry, which really made me uncomfortable at seminary, my goal was to create a place of refuge for my husband to come. And that was it. Where is that? That's the home. Be busy at home. Be his helper out of the home. And that essentially is what we've done. And why am I even on this show? Well, to be honest, an old contemporary Christian artist had a podcast, and I listened one time, and she said, I went through a winter season with my husband, and I realized how important sowing into my marriage was. And I was like, okay, that's really, really fancy evangelical talk. What does that mean? Because it sounds pretty and it sounds biblical, but what does that look like? And after thinking about it for a while, I realized, what does a farmer do? So you have a field, and to sow is to plant. So I'm planting seeds into my marriage. What does that look like? Does that look like me just going away and doing my own thing and finding my own friends? No, it actually means investing in my marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Where is my husband stressing out? And can I help? Well, his Saturday morning show was really stressful for him, and it caused quite a bit of just angst in his Friday and his Saturday following the show. And then prior to the show. So I thought, well, I don't know what I can do, but I can be willing. And so I came to him and I said, I don't know what I can do, but I'm willing to help. And here we are today.
Mm-hmm.
Over time, it changed and morphed and became what it is. But so that for me was how I became less of a widow.
You
And
invested in what I was already doing.
Yeah, instead of investing in me and trying to be like, well, I deserve to do my own thing, which...
So he's at church late on Tuesday night working on his this and that. Like, go sit in the pew.
Yeah.
Pray the Psalter. Just be like, hey, I'll be in there. Be in the same building, you know? And then when you have the kids, be home, caring for the kids. Be ready to see him when he comes home.
Yeah.
Want to see him when he comes home.
Train the children to say, Father or Daddy or Yay, you're home.
Don't ask him how he's feeling.
him.
Ask him what he did. Right? Don't say, how are you? Say, what'd you do today? You know, and let him talk. Because he probably needs to just unload a lot. Be his confidant. Be the one you can trust. Don't tell other people what he said.
Yeah.
You know? And yeah.